So for those who aren't that familiar with the structure, basically all throughout this year, players have been competing in the competitive level of Gwent to try and earn a spot in this World Masters, which is the last official tournament of the year and effectively the last official tournament before we go into Infinity. So we are going to be casting the group stage this weekend. However, 2 players have already managed to secure a spot in the main stage, which will be taking place next weekend. The first of those is Kaneki Amori, who won the mid-season tournament, and the second is Pajbol, who managed to get the most crown points through placing highly both on ladder, qualifiers, and in tournaments throughout the year. So they will not be competing in the group stage, they've already earned their spot next weekend. However, we do have 12 players who will be competing in the group stage. Those 12 players are divided into 3 groups of 4 players each, and in each of those groups of 4, 2 of the players will make it out of the group. So each group will be playing in a double elimination bracket where you need to effectively win 2 games to make it out of the group. If you lose 2 games, then you're eliminated and out of the tournament. So as you can see on screen, we have the groups A, B, and C. Mosh and I will be casting the first 2 games for Group C tonight, or today, depending on your time zone. It's let's just say unholy hours for both Mosh and myself.
Yeah, it's 3 a.m. for me. What time is it for you, Levin?
It is 10 p.m., but it's only going to get later as we go on. So, yes.
This is the...
Yeah, and here you can see the bracket in a bit more detail. So for this day 1, you'll be having the game 1 and the game 2 played for each of the groups. And then out of the winner's game, the winner will directly get out of the group. And out of the loser's game, the loser will be eliminated from the group. The winner of the loser's game and the loser of the winner's game, so the 2 players who end up with a 1-1 record, will play out in a tiebreaker to try and secure the last spot out of the group. And that's the effective rundown for the group stage. After that, you'll have top 8 players who will compete in a standard single elimination as the format that you've been used to in Gwent official events for the last, well, forever basically in Gwent. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess what the players in the group stage, what they need to do is they need to, in their group, they need to finish in the top 2, right? And then there'll be a playoff section.
Yeah, so the playoffs will take place next weekend. And with those, it's 1 loss and you're out straight away. So a bit more high stakes, I suppose. There's a little bit of leeway, room for mistakes in the group stage. But yeah, next weekend, it's all or nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
All right, so do we want to take a look at the decks?
I would love to take a look at the decks.
Okay, well, if you insist. So
I do insist.
Who do you want to look at first?
We can start by looking at Joe first, I suppose.
Okay.
So, yeah, the game 1 for us here will be Joe against Gravesh. So here are Joe's lists. Would you like to start us off with the imposter list?
Sure. Yeah, so this looks like a pretty standard imposter list since some of the cards got changed. Almost no one is running Grumpali anymore in competitive. We're seeing the Usurper, which gives you a good short round, Joachim, which can really help against control decks, protect your engines, and also protect against in a bleed. He's also very good in a short round 3. And Joachim was recently changed by the Balance Council to be 3 power. Thirsty Dames are back at 5 provisions. So the only sort of variations we see in this list is some people run Deathwind Arbalests. I've started cutting them. This list also doesn't have them. So we see just the 2 Servants, the 2 Fangs, the Seditious Aristocrats. And then in the 4 Ps, we have the Turncoats and 1 Infiltrator, 1 Emissary. So very, very flexible, solid, I guess, take on Imposter. It doesn't have battle stations or, some of the Rompali Letho combo you might see on the ladder, but I think this is overall the most considered the most solid variation on Ball.
Yeah, quite sort of balanced between a bit more of a balance, I suppose, between the more engine-y long round, as well as not a terrible short round with cards like the Usurp and the Yorkim. You're not screwed if you get forced into a short round like some of the older lists were a bit more.
And then I guess next up we have this Guerrilla Tactics Shiru list. This is a list that, from just talking to chat yesterday, not a lot of people are familiar with, but at high OMR, this is very common and kind of a very scary list, right?
Yeah, I think we first saw this taken to top 16 qualifiers. The most recent top 16 qualifier that took place last month, I guess now.
Yep.
And it's sort of been the main deck, I suppose, for scoia'tael since then at sort of the pro level. This is very much like the original version. Certain players have combined it with a few different leader abilities, a bit more mixing up the kind of cards, but here it's the original golds right down, including basically all the 5 provision cards. There's a bit of flexibility in the 4 provisions. Here we have a Swordmaster, which is a bit interesting to see. There's also the single scroll for attack and the skirmishers, which are quite nice because the 3 damage they provide can combine amazingly with the Milva, with the Couch Saboteurs, potentially backup plan pings. Also setting up a Shiru. So Shiru is quite scary in this list. You don't want to face Shiru in a long round, especially when there's tools like the Guerrilla Tactics Leader, the Milva pings, the Mahakam Pass, the Vial to boost up the Shiru to a power that you desire. Very, very scary to play against.
Yeah, there's even an offering. So, normally when you're playing against Shiru, you're thinking 3, 6, 9, 12. But also you have to think if they use an offering, it could be 5, 8, 11, 14. Exactly. Mahakam Pass is 5, so it immediately, takes you to an 8. And then there's also Vial, which is 4. So it basically covers all of the, there's not a number set that you can put your units at and think that you're immune to Shiru when you're playing against this deck. And of course, we see a return of Milva Sharpshooter, which we haven't seen in a very long time. But I think part of the reason it's back is because of Scholars. So in this deck, we don't see any Scholars, but we've seen Milva come back a bit since it's more than 11 provisions. It helps your Scholars. But this list just is like you said, is running a Swordmaster instead.
Yeah.
All right, and then next up we have Death Wish, which is has been a staple deck for monsters in tournaments. It's very strong on blue coin with Urn of Shadows, and thinning with Brewis Ritual, and of course you have Dagon for the points and carryover. And there's always that threat of second form Dagon if you're against some sort of deck that can't answer it. That's always an option, although most often we see Dagon used in the first form. See anything interesting about this list?
A lot of it I'd say is pretty standard. The double Cyclops is a bit of an interesting development, particularly after the last set of cards were released. A lot of the monster decks started running 1 or 2 Cyclopses, partly because they were Ogroids, and Ogroids was a bit of the flavor of the month there, but also because the meta's moved in such a way that often the opponent will have a couple of really key cards that you just need to answer, and Cyclops provides a fairly cheap way to be able to get a large amount of removal. Granted, it comes at the downside of having to kill one of your own units.
But if your units have Death Wish...
The nice thing is in Death Wish, it can sort of act as a pseudo consume anyways. Yeah. Which, like, with a Succubus, that's kind of just 5 damage on a stick, which is not too shabby. And I think with the Arendite, the Heat Wave, it offers you some other tools to be able to try and keep the opponent's board under control. Notably, no Riptide being run after the power nerf that he received, instead opting for those other tools as mentioned.
Yeah, usually Riptide takes the place of Kairan, and a lot of people had cut Kairan to fit in Riptide, but this list runs it. I think we'll see in Gravesh's list a slightly different approach, but so let's talk about Pincer Maneuver. This deck just will not die. Mutagenerator got nerfed to 8 provisions. Temple is 13 provisions. Used to be 12. And I think, but somehow still this deck is surviving.
However, you know what did die? In this case, Redea. Because what those provision ifs do mean is that one of those 10 provisioned cards that you're running, they end up having to be cut, and Joe has decided to get rid of the Redea to be able to keep things like the Heat Wave as your top punish, to keep the Radovid, keep the Rune Mage.
This has
So
two
that
locks.
provides a little bit less point slam than previously. But yeah, that does free up some provisions to, in this case, run a second lock. Margarita was pretty standard in these lists a couple months ago, but is running the Druggery as an extra addition, and that can put a bit of extra pressure on the opponent's Purify. Often there's just one Purify, but one Purify doesn't protect against two locks. Two is more than one.
Yeah, I think initially when the provision nerfs came, people were cutting Marguerite and keeping the Iris duo still, and along with Redea, and then when the last round came, I was hearing, oh well, we have to cut both Marguerite as well, or sorry, we have to cut something else. But it looks like the Redea has taken the cut, and it kind of makes sense because in Pincer you can't tutor Redea, so it was like another card like Shoop and Rune Mage that you had to draw.
Yeah, which is kind of like a luxury, which doesn't have as high of a ceiling or isn't as integral as something like the Shoop or the Rune Mage. So that's why if you're cutting a 10p, you want to keep the Toll Punish, then the Redea says bye-bye. Plus, yeah, otherwise it's a pretty standard list, what we're used to, I think. Not too much else to say. Kadodoni Revenant says hello after the power buff he receives, but I think that's largely it.
Okay.
Of note, the Monsters list is banned on the side of Joe here, so we won't be seeing him playing Death Wish.
Oh, right. Yes, we do have the bans. So, all right, we haven't looked at Gravesh's list yet, so I won't spoil which one got banned yet. Do you want to switch to those now?
Yep, I think that's a pretty good segue.
All right. So, chat, while we're going through these decks, try and guess which of these decks got banned by Joe.
Yeah. Okay. So we have a Death Wish as the first list here. Again, fairly standard golds, except what is this? This is an Eskel Pathfinder peeking out. So it's able to kill any unit which doesn't have a category which is being run in this list. And if you have a look at this list, the main categories are stuff like insectoids, beasts, relicts. Notably, there is also the Naglfar Taskmaster, where a bit of an interesting story about a choice between a Peller or a Taskmaster. Do you want to take it away, Mosh?
Sure, yeah. So when you run Eskel, you don't want to have any humans in your deck, because humans by far the most common tag that you're going to face. So yeah, this is Paja and Gravesh worked on this list, and they cut Peller, but they thought, we want to have a Purify, so they put in Naglfar Taskmaster. Of course, they weren't expecting Magpie, which you'll see his lineup later, but Magpie actually brought elves, and Naglfar Taskmaster is actually an elf. So this Eskel is going to be very bad into an elves list because, well, yes, they run a lot of elves.
Yes, it's no good, let's just say that.
Yeah, and see, they don't have any Cyclops at all or Riptide, so they cut all of that to fit in Pathfinder. And also, a lot of people were expecting AQ to be the monster list. Paja said, yeah, we were going to run AQ until we played some Death Wish and decided Death Wish is actually good. So that will be interesting to see, because I think some of the lists might have targeted AQ. I know that Puzzle, for example, has some cards in his lineup that are specifically for dealing with AQ, and I guess get debated.
Yeah. Yeah, on the rest of the list, though, I think it's kind of what you're used to. The 8 provision slot, which is sometimes a Riptide or a Karen, has been upgraded to that Eskel. So in turn, a couple of the 5 provisions got downgraded to 4 provisions. But yeah, we should probably move a bit swiftly looking at the time.
Yep.
The next list here is a Blood Money Golden Necker list. So I think this is the kind of Golden Necker list which has been most popular throughout the year as a whole. what has been terrorizing qualifiers for quite a while. You have a lot of poisons and bounties and tools just combined together, make efficient use of coins, poisons, and just remove a lot of the opponent's units.
Yeah.
And you're building up to an Ignatius as a finisher, so you're able to just control the board and then slam down an 18-point Ignatius as your last say. Also, Golden Necker itself is a huge tempo play whenever you decide to pull it out. You can also just remove a couple key threats from the opponent depending on what kind of specials and artifacts you're able to combine with.
Yeah, this list was responsible for Bank and Roach getting nerfed to 10 provisions a while ago. But the Balance Council made Roach be 9 provisions again. So we've seen this list come back. And most recently, Golden Necker went to 10, so it lost a provision. But because you don't have Bank, they're running Fisher King as a way to guarantee Golden Necker. So you have Decree, you have Fisher King, and you have decent amount of thinning. So you should be pretty consistent. Next up, we have Precision Strike, and this is a slightly different list actually than not slightly. This is a different list than Shiru, but the same sort of control-y mid-range style.
Yeah, it's building up to the same finisher effectively of the similar into Double Armor's Workshop, which then combines nicely with the Dennis Kramer as the sort of last card there. But it has a lot of other points tools, which the Guerrilla Tactics list is kind of missing. We see a Zoltan Warrior, which can play for a lot of points himself, and if you're able to put some armor on it, either with the Location or the Dwarven Chariot, he'll act as a 1 ping per turn. You also have the Great Oak. Not too bad at sort of providing a bit of flexible damage if you've been able to build up a bit of a row, which is quite easy to do with Zoltan Warrior and the Dwarven Chariots. Also Commander's Horn, nice if you're able to spam a bunch of Rowdy Dwarves and Stride Sentinels with the leader to get a bunch of bronzes, and then just pepper your golds in between those bronzes to get a very, very strong 7 provision point slam payoff.
Yeah, I actually had a chance to play this a bit on ladder. And I think the most interesting thing in this list for me was Commander's Horn. It's actually kind of brilliant in hindsight because Zoltan himself is 2 golds and 2 bronzes or bodies. So round 1, round 2, round 3, like this Commander's Horn is very hard to brick. And one of the big things with landing the Simless into double Workshop followed by Kramer combo is having enough bodies. And this deck does a good job of creating those with 2 chariots. As well as, the Zoltan, of course. And then Oak takes advantage of the same thing because Precision Strike, Oak, Zoltan, all of these add bodies. So, and next, I think we have the type of deck that every time I face on ladder makes me think of you, even though it doesn't have Madoc. But I associate you with Imperial Formation now for some reason. So I'll let you.
No, don't take me with this Renfrey list. Gosh.
Yeah. It looks like the players are now in the queue for the game, so we got a few seconds to talk about this final list.
Yeah, so this is a pretty standard kind of Renfrey Triss list. Golds are, just your Mons combined with the soldiers, Room Mage to make the Renfrey more consistent, Vilgefortz is your Toll Punch, which is actually a unit, and then Treyhern to just high roll some stuff. I guess Xavier Lemons is there for some Graveyard Punish too. The bronzes, you have a nice pairing of points done with the Blightmaker and then also the Sergeants, as well as the North Knight being a runoff as a one-off in this list, as well as a good number of engines with the Arbor Pikemen, the Light Cavalries, and then the Save Drivers to kind of copy whichever soldiers you choose. Arbor Armored Cavalries provide a bit of locks to keep the opponents from going out of range of your engines. Yet notably, no Imperial Marines being run here after the power nerf they received, choosing Arbor Pikemen as the 5 provision engine of choice over those units. And also the Musicians of Blava can provide a lot of nice extra tempo at the very start of the round 1. Makes it very easy to push for a win on even. Cool, so that was that list. And what is banned for Gravesh? It is...
Precision Strike.
Ooh. Yep, so not seeing Scoia on that side of things.
So we're in game 1. Gravesh opts for Pincer Maneuver from Blue... Joe opts for Pincer Maneuver from Blue Coin. And Gravesh has brought Golden Necker Blood Money from Red Coin. This should be a very spicy matchup.
So a couple immediate thoughts here is Island Finish is kind of impossible for the Syndicate to directly deal with. So that's obviously not great for the bounty. But then, on the other hand of things, bounty does provide a lot of engines, which if the pincer maneuver list isn't able to properly answer, it can quickly get out of control. And remember that, yeah, sure, you have 2 locks in this pincer maneuver list. However, there is a Kalkstein in the Golden Necker bounty, which is a very, very efficient answer because let's say the opponent uses a lock, you play Kalkstein to purify it, or they kind of can't get any value out of the second lock because you'll just spend 2 coins with the Kalkstein, which is already floating on board. But yeah, plays are starting off very quickly. We have the Radovid being played turn 1, because there is no Mooch Generator or Temple in hand here for Joe to start with. Pretty unfortunate draws. Decides to get the Mooch Generator in hand with the first leader being used, and we'll likely see the Temple coming into hand soon as well.
Can you remind me what was banned for Joe?
Monsters.
Thank you.
The Death Wish deck was banned. So seeing Temple, I think that might have been a headshot on something, not sure. The second one looks like Fallible is not great. Teeth No More Redea, Mad Key, and maybe a Hensel. Defenders, I think, pretty solid for this last card. Can be chunked through with poisons, but does provide a bit of extra something that Gravesh will need to get through. Hopefully we'll see what the Temple choices were in a second. Yeah, also note that there is no Rune Mage in hand here, which means the Temple is a bit more up to RNG. So on the whole, pretty poor draws for Joe. Gotta not be feeling happy with that, and that does potentially give Gravesh a nice in ways to try to push for a win on even. But there is the Roach sticking around in Gravesh's hand. He did purposefully keep the Roach during the Mulligan phase, so opting to probably try and keep that either for a defense or possible bleed. I don't think you would save it all the way for round 3. That's pretty risky, Mulligan-wise.
Yeah, so you think he figures he's given up round 1, or is it more that he thinks he can win round 1 without using Roach? And he wants to do a very strong
probably you just don't want to play into Mooch Generator. You'll be happy to pass as soon as the Mooch Generator comes out.
Gotcha. Which it hasn't come out yet. And
no.
And Joe didn't have Rune Mage, so he...
No.
Did you see what he got from Temple?
Probably Defender, maybe a Hensalt. But we haven't properly been shown, so hopefully... Oh, actually I might be able to rewind and see what the Isis companions saw. Oh, took a Baron actually. So it was Baron, Hensalt, and... I think Fallible? I think Baron Hensalt Fallible.
Okay, Hensalt, huh? I'm just gonna look.
I'm not sure on the Fallible, it was at the edge of the screen, but maybe.
Interesting. And there is a crew unit, right? I'm just checking. He does have the Siege Tower. Okay, yeah.
So yeah, there's always one for the Hensalt, but maybe chose Hensalt in the first and didn't want it in the second, and then took the Fallible. But yeah. Yeah, so as the Ice Companions, putting Ice into the graveyard, getting 1 boost onto all the cards, all the units in Joe's deck. The Crystal Skull is used to put a bit of Veil onto the Ice Companions, protects that 5 body from any potential bounties, seeking to hunt down that demon. And Gravesh says, okay, you want to get creative with Ice Companions? I'll just play my Fisher King. I'll put, not sure what, because Golden Necker is in hand, but probably some key, maybe Candle or something to the top of deck.
Yeah, that would make sense. Because you usually don't want Candle to come out from Golden Necker. You want it to be on the board, so that you can spend, because you get a lot of coins from that Golden Necker already. Usually with the crime or the something dies, gives you bounty.
Yeah, and you'd much prefer to have the location come out, because then you can try and combine the poisons with potentially like a Fist Tech or something as the special that comes out. So yeah, now the question is, like, it's not fun to play into this if you're sort of just playing a 4 provision card here, because then you lose in value if you end up playing Mooch Generator in a future round. But yeah, it's a little awkward trying to keep contesting.
Yeah, Gravesh is within 4 points right now, so I think he's, well, his hand is getting a little too good, right?
Yeah, and especially with like the Roach and the Golden Necker, it isn't keeping playable. And note that Fisher King was played, no Roach came out. Joe knows there is a Roach in hand.
Yeah.
So
That's not something these players are going to miss.
no. And that should give you a little bit more confidence to say, you know what, I'm pretty sure I can fight for the round win here. I'm not going to give up so easily.
Yeah. At the same time, Joe's hand isn't exactly, cards you're excited to play either. Like the Cintrian Knight is there, but it doesn't have a target to hit, and it's like one of the only damage cards that this deck has for finishing off something low. And Saius would be a huge overcommitment. So here comes Tunnel Drill. I guess this can just get locked, right? Yeah, instantly.
Yeah, I like using the lock. It puts a bit of pressure on whether the opponent actually had the Cuxton in hand here or not.
And I think you put Rune Mage up top with that Envoy just now.
Yes. Yeah, so getting the access to the Rune Mage is quite crucial to make that shoot more consistent. Also not a bad point sum in itself and can combine nicely with the Mewtwo if there's still 10 provisions left in the deck. But yeah. So yeah, also it's nice that if you know the opponent has the Kalkstein, just play your lock round one, because if you have the lock, maybe your opponent wasn't lucky enough to draw the Purify yet, and as that is the case, it's a little bit harder to keep contesting here because you have 6 coins, but no great way to spend them. And as you said, not a super playable hand otherwise. Like the Morale or Blenheim Brother isn't stuff you want to really commit.
Our observer really wants us to know that that's a volunteer. He was not conscripted. He was not forced to sign up. He decided to join the war.
Yeah, volunteer in air quotations. The choice here is to actually use the leader on the Redanian Knight to deal with that engine and just play the Menge to set up a bounty, stay ahead.
Yeah, Menge is a big commitment though, isn't it?
Yeah, leader in Menge is pretty huge commitment. Like, granted, you'd expect the Menge to get answered eventually by perhaps the Ansace or something, but
yep,
if you get the Ansace out here, you better be happy with that.
But
and now perhaps this is
yeah,
Gary would poison someone down.
Would Morale get him there? Would be 11 points. Yeah, he can just play Morale and click the assassin, and I mean, he doesn't have a spender, but we get him ahead.
Yeah, that'll get it ahead this turn. But yeah, then you get a whole lot of coins, no way to spend them. But then you have to think after that point, my only playable card is a Roland Blindheim, really.
Yeah.
Which is 6 points doing nothing else.
But Joe doesn't know that, right? Gravesh could easily have a poison in his hand, and
yes, that's the problem.
Morale plus a poison in hand can take Enseus down. So I think if Gravesh plays Morale here, Joe has to pass.
It's a bluff. Does Gravesh feel confident? Will he go for the bluff? Time is ticking down. The answer is no. Decides, I'm not going to risk it. I'm just going to sort of respect my opponent. I'm just going to bow out of the round. So round control goes over to the Northern Realms. And do you reckon we'll see a bleed coming through here?
I don't. Well, it's very hard to bleed this syndicate list, isn't it?
Yeah. Keeping the Verge.
I mean, if you play Erland, I guess. But that would be.
This Gravesh keeps the Verge.
Wow.
Okay.
I guess maybe he expects a bleed, and he really just wants to maximize his short round 3 points.
Maybe. Because, yeah, like, you need points to send up to the Erland, because, yeah, this deck boosts the Erland. There's no ways to really interact with it.
So what was the card that he put on top with Fisher King? It was just Royal Decree, right?
Yeah, I think so. Which makes sense. It gives you a lot of flexibility between just getting any unit you like. Because if you don't know what the rest of your deck is, then it can sort of ensure you get that unit you're going to miss. Around here, like, Yeah, sure, there's the morale, there's the Salamandra failed experiment person thingy. You'll get a whole lot of coins from these poisons, but again, there's no spender. There's no point having a huge income if you don't have anything to use it on. Can't take all that wealth to you to round, well, 3. Half of it is going to go away, and you might need points to stand up to a shoop here.
This is dirty.
No, this is a bit down to luck. Roomage was not found, but
there is no luck.
Don't need it.
There is only believe in the heart of the cards. Oh my god. Having your roll installed. I mean, it was going to get locked or stolen, but I'd rather have it be locked. This does emotional damage.
At least if it's locked, you could decree for Kalkstein potentially. I don't think that would be the correct play, again, because
that's true, yeah.
But yeah.
I forgot about the
Kalkstein.
Here, this was a 17-point shoop.
Yeah, huge shoop. However, the silver lining for Gravesh, as mentioned, I don't think the Roland was that important. Not the end of the world here. Yeah, I'm not sure how you actually develop the points here. Like,
yeah, one of our newer viewers was asking, "Hey, what does shoop do?" And I just replied, "Did that answer your question?" Shoop does stuff like that.
Yeah, the best way to describe shoop is it's basically a toolbox. And if you play Rune Mage, it's a really consistent toolbox where you can just pick the tool you need for the situation. Pretty sharp tool in the shed.
Sharp like rock.
Yes, sharp as a rock. So, this is an interesting choice for the Square Rune Stone. Something like a Sorceress of Doblathan is quite as scary. You could also take a Giant Slayer, which is not amazing, but it'll start pinging down this morale.
Yeah, it's like 5 points and kind of has to be answered.
Yeah, you could. The 4P is really not great here. So, like, yeah, you kind of want to take a 4P for the extra carryover onto the Erland. But it decides, no, I'll just go for the Sorceress and even get a bit of boost with the Image Generator. So you kind of need to answer that now, or you'll be, just so many points down. And the nice thing about the Sorceress here is you could luck into a Purify. You could luck into a backup plan. It's very, very scary if it sticks. So yeah, here comes the Golden Echo.
That morale's not
that's true. That could deal with the morale. There's the Fist Tech comment to combine nicely with the morale. Likely will remove the Roland there.
Yep.
And wonder if we're gonna see some way to deal with the.
I think they go for the 7.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
There. Yeah, so the Fist Tech gets the finish off, and the morale combines with the failed experiment to get the kill. And now the Golden Echo is actually able to get that lead going, and playing into the Skeleton and the potential location click is pretty scary if you're trying to slam a lot of points into one tall unit.
Why do you think Gravesh went for the failed experiment over
poison to answer the Sorceress, right? You
yeah.
wouldn't have been able to answer the Sorceress otherwise.
I see. Well, yeah, I guess, I mean, he would have done it. Oh, right. He had to do it that turn. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So here comes down. Gravesh's board is just like, just full of poisons ready to launch.
Yeah.
Cannot feel good for. Well, Joe grabs the Erland. Wow. Wonder what we'll see Mulligan. Okay.
Get slammed.
Yeah.
I mean, you know the Roach is still in hand. Roach still hasn't come out.
That's true.
Might be sniffing blood in the water.
Yeah, and he mulligans Marguerite. And keeps the Centurion Guard. Or the Centurion Knight, sorry.
Yeah, and with the big Roach, Erland comes down. Gravesh is like, okay, you've read me, and I can't catch up.
Wow.
Yeah, look, I'm not sure what Gravesh was trying to do with that Roach keep. Like, I think, especially like with how that ended up going, Gravesh committed hard to the round 1 and just wasn't able to keep contesting it. So then, spent quite a bit, lost out on the round control, kept the Roach, awkward hand to defend with. Sure, the Golden Echo was nice, but just didn't have really the points to spend, like, basically everything catching up, and then the urn comes down and it's like, boom, that's just the coup de grace, the killing blow.
I mean, he had to expect the Erland, so why not at least bluff round one?
Think maybe thought with different draws might have been able to defend the bleed better. I mean, those were some pretty, like, you drew like all the temple golds without really needing leaders, and had the rune mages set up top deck through the envoy.
Yeah,
like,
Joe still had like 3 leaders left.
But yeah, I guess Gravesh just wasn't expecting the bleed, because why else would you keep the Roach? Like, maybe you just want it for the short round, but it's, if opponent knows you have Roach, it's...
I mean, like, okay, let's say he doesn't have Roach. You still have to, like, expect the Erland bleed, because, like, your deck doesn't have COC. That is always a play. That is always a reason why you... It's always scary against these Erland decks if you don't have an answer to Erland. And especially if you play a deck, like, on ladder, sometimes, you know, your opponent doesn't know. But here at open deck list, Joe knows there's no COC. There's literally nothing they can do to...
Yeah.
It's not like there's a salamander in this deck somewhere.
No.
All right. Well, we go to game 2. And Gravesh brings Deathwish from Blue Coin, and it's running into Imposter. This should be a very interesting matchup, because Deathwish has a lot of points and is usually good into control and can bleed very well. But at the same time, Deathwish can't really deal with any of the engines on the Masquerade Ball side.
Yeah, and there is a lot of locks and poisons that this imposter list can throw out. Like,
and Doomed.
Even, like, sure, you have, like, and Doomed as well with stuff like the Philippe, potentially.
And
so
Doomed is really devastating against Deathwish, because Succubus and Dettlaff, if any of them are doomed, then that's it. They're done. It's basically it makes them useless. They can't even be consumed to come back. Doomed on Toad, negates the carryover and is a minus consume. So and there's 2 servants in this list. So if anything has Doomed, they can just transfer the Doomed from another bronze to, So I'll be curious to see how that goes. Another thing to point out is there's no answer for Rosa other than, I guess, Arendite or Arendite, Heatwave, and Eskel, right? Because there's no Cyclops in this list.
That's really the control of this list is the Arendite, Heatwave, and Eskel. So you have very, very limited tools to deal with a lot of potential threatening engines.
You have to keep the Heatwave for scenario, right? I guess it depends on if you get... Maybe you just bleed it out.
As the game develops.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's more correct to Heatwave a Dame rather than scenario. If you're able to use your consumes efficiently enough to dodge the poisons, that can be the correct play. I'm not sure what the correct line is.
Plus, there's an Amir, and Amir with scenario can double poison in 1 turn, which means consumes won't do much.
Yeah.
Immediately, we see a lock come out on the Dagon. So, first form Dagon infuses 5 units in the deck. Put something in the graveyard that will come out after 4 of those units have been consumed. But in addition to that, it also has a consume himself and a passive that gives +1 to every Deathwish unit that's played. So when you lock first form Dagon, you're denying Gravesh the ability to, in the same turn, both play and consume the Brewis. So this is where it becomes tricky, because if you play a Brewis here and you click the stratagem on it and don't use a leader charge to consume it, a servant could migrate both the lock and the doomed to Brewis.
So you have to use a leader instead.
That 1 lock on the Dagon basically costs Gravesh a leader.
Yeah, and that's a lot of infusions out. So the Brewis was infused herself, and there's 3 of the other infusions. There's only 1 more infusion in deck. Dagon has been worshipped twice, which means that you only need, I think, 2 more consumes to go through onto the infusions, and then the Dagon will be coming right back out. need to be very, very careful. Is it? It's 4.
Yeah, it's 4.
It's 4 warships, right?
So,
so one more.
Was Brewis
One more
infused?
Right. Yeah, Brewis was infused.
Okay, so he's already at 2 now? 2 warships?
3 because of the urn, right?
Click the urn. He consumed the Brewis. That's 2. What was the third one?
One of the bridge trolls was infused. Yeah. But yeah, instead we just see a bit of a slow play. Note that you could have maybe played a servant here to transfer Doomed over to one of the toads. Instead, just opts to play a Thanon Turncoat.
I think he was worried about the tempo pass. If you play a servant there, and Gravesh passes, you're kind of...
I think it's basically as many points as the Turncoat anyways.
Oh, you mean instead of... Yeah, I guess you're right. But yeah, that is interesting. Yeah. Maybe they're just trying to save all their ammo for defending the bleed. I don't know.
Yeah, like potentially being able to recycle locks or Doomed, as you mentioned, could be very, very powerful. Like maybe that servant is basically a gold card in this kind of matchup. Yeah,
and Rosa gets mulliganed. We do see like Emir and Scenario are in hand. So I expect to see Emir into an engine now, and Artfane should come out as well. Yep.
Yeah. Look at how there's no AQ, no Detlef in hand here for Gravesh. That's not going to make this bleed easy. Because these succubuses, they don't come online until a few more cards have been played.
Yeah.
And they're playing into Artfane and Emir and this Hubble Pikeman just in one turn. That's a lot of threats that Joe has put down.
Is Erendite at 6 yet? It must not have been, right? Because otherwise you... Well, maybe he wants to save it. Wow, Artfane sees Joachim and Usurper up top. What do you put at the bottom? It has to be Usurper, right? So if any of you guys don't know, Artfane is an artifact that comes out the first time you play a Gold Aristocrat. So when Emir was played, it was summoned from the deck, it thins itself, and then it has an order, and this order is refreshed every time you play an Aristocrat. And that's what's happening right now, is it shows you 2 cards, the top 2 cards in your deck. You get to put one at the bottom, and if the card you put at the bottom was an Aristocrat, you get to give an enemy unit bleeding, and if it was an agent, you get to give an enemy unit spying. If it was both, then you give an enemy unit both. So, sort of what Joe has to do here is in his head keep track of the order of the cards at the bottom of his deck. So he knows, there's a Usurper, and then there's something else. I missed it. Under that.
Yes, Usurper is now the second bottom card. Albert Pikeman is on the bottom. Joachim is the top card. Do you know where sort of 3 of your 10 cards are in your deck right now?
Exactly.
And of course, next round you'll get to see the top 5 of them.
And this is a devotion deck, so if this succubus gets to 1 power, and Emir can yoink it, once it has spying, which it can get spying very easily from Artfane here. So Rosa was clicked, I think. Yeah, if you were keeping Joachim up top, you're not putting it down now for Rosa. So
yeah. Yeah. I think. Yeah, like you see, like the Foglet, the Succubus come out really early. This Leno Harpy. Like I think it's pretty clear at this point that at the very least Detlef is missing. Perhaps the AQ you might feel confident is missing as well. But yeah, I think Death Wish. There are a lot of engines that this Aristocrats list puts out in a long round, and I think Death Wish you can't take it into a long round. Even if it's not a good bleed, you have to try to go for this bleed.
Yeah, you shorten the round. I mean, this is like I guess a value bleed where you're giving up last save, but you're hoping to trade like provisions well, or at the very least go into a favorable round length, because Death Wish, even in a 4 card versus 5 card round 3 with Detlef and Toads, it can still put out a ton of points.
Yeah, for sure.
So interestingly, we see one of the succubus get locked here, but I don't think that's going to do anything, because Drago Warrior consumes both, All the bleeds don't matter, and one of the succubus comes out. So I guess that lock was just I'm gonna play a card kind of lock. Here comes Servant.
Yeah, no. Yes, there's the dooms now being put from the drone. The drone.
The clicking of the drone backfires.
The warrior. It's the extra point. I mean, look, not that it matters much in this round because there's no more consumes unless you're gonna leader it.
It will matter next round, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's
No,
still one
I
in
guess not.
graveyard.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter.
So it should. Yeah, I don't think it would make a difference.
Unless
but-
Gravesh was gonna leader it or something, which he probably wasn't gonna.
Yeah.
He's gonna save a leader for next round. And Coup hasn't been played, so this squirrel is like awkward. But I guess it's kind of the only play here.
I don't think there's not an easy way to put Spy on it immediately and play Q.
I wonder if Heatwaving the Arcfane was ever correct.
Yeah, I wonder.
Like, I've never done it myself, but I always, like, after 6 turns, I'm like, oh man, that Arcfane got like 20 points.
Yeah, it plays for so many points and it has so much synergy, but the problem is if you Heatwave an artifact which got summoned for free, that's so much tempo loss. Like, you've just given up your Heatwave and you've basically given up card advantage as well.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, because it comes out, yeah. You're basically trading Heatwave with the Roach.
Yeah, like imagine you sit at the start of this round. Opponent plays a Mir, you just Heatwave the Arcfane. Now they got an Mir on board while you developed nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
That's not great. Suddenly it's played for a lot, and you see here it's combining super nicely. So much bleeding and spying given over. There's the Escort.
And this Escort can be cooed because, yeah, when you copy Escort, it's based on your starting deck. So this Joe can use Escort to kill a beast, a relic, the insectoid, anything on this board. Yeah. Anything except a human, I guess.
Yeah. So the Escort killed the Thirsty Dame, I believe, but the silver lining.
It was a seditious aristocrat.
So yeah, I mixed them up.
It was like
an
8-point
big
aristocrat
engine that Joe had. But there is a pass here for Gravesh.
Is there? Yeah, I guess because it's a tie when he passes.
25.
Yep.
It'll be a tie, which would force an extra card for Joe.
This is the best pass Gravesh is going to get. I'm shocked that he has a pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, easiest pass of his life, I feel like. What are you going to do, play a squirrel to banish nothing?
Yeah, like maybe you were thinking, I can try and force the Q, get a squirrel on it, but yeah.
How? You'd have to play Heatwave to force the coup. That's not a good trade.
Yeah, and I don't think if the coup was used, like you see the point gap there just to get ahead.
So if it's me in Gravesh's shoes in this round, I might, like, if Scenario comes out, which, I mean, I don't think Joe's going to open Scenario, but if Joe does open Scenario, I would just mulligan everything and then play Debt Laugh last. I would just try to but there's a Joachim. Never mind. That wouldn't work.
Yeah, it's the hard thing. There's just Aristocrat.
There's Philippe. There's Joachim. There's Coup. There's 2 aristocrats in hand. This is a perfect round 3 for Joe.
Like depending on sort of how much the Arcfane and where particularly the mulliganed cards went to, this Joachim has a decent chance of pulling the Usurper, I think.
Yeah, and he'll know what it's going to get because Arcfane tells you that. That's one of the... Okay, opening with Scenario. Interesting.
I think that's fine. You need to be very careful. Like you have 2 guaranteed procs with the Philippe and the Seditious Aristocrats. Joachim might get one. Also keep in mind, Joachim can just be eaten to try and deny the coup. But you do have Arcfane to sort of set it up regardless.
So Pop Quiz 11. If Gravesh plays a Death Wish unit on the range row and a Toad comes out, will the Thirsty Dame boost or not?
Yeah?
From the Toad getting doomed.
I assume so.
I think so too. Because I think that it gains doomed after it consumes, which means it's on the board.
like, it's not deploy. I imagine it should work similarly because like Nova's deploy gives us the exact same. It does boost things, but there's a heat wave as you the game comes down onto the Moshcraft. Not easy to have a nice party with a heat wave going outside. I think all over the place.
And
the aristocrats didn't faint in the heat wave, but they are here to stay.
Yes, and it also lets Gravesh be uninteractive. There's nothing to target, which means Artfane can't. I mean, you can still click it. Funny enough, even though you don't have a target, you can still do the sorting thing.
It's just deck manipulation at that point, and again, depending on the placement of the usurper, you really need to be careful. Like the usurper, the Rosa. Ooh.
Spicy, but Philippe is very happy about a unit with a status already on it getting a boost.
Yeah, and that's the Heatwave is gone. That's the Arendite gone from this round. Eskel gone last round.
But
Joe knows there's no more control. This Philippe won't be answered. Granted, it won't have zeal.
Yes, exactly.
Was the vampire?
Exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Is the vampire got killed? So this Philippe is. I guess there's no answer for it anyway, though. So it's fine.
Yeah, still get 2 turns to spread statuses.
How did the drone get spying?
Set up another Ardfane, I think.
Oh, it was already active. He clicked it and then he played Philippe.
Yeah, I missed what the Ardfane actually saw. It was a very quick click, I think. It saw a Fangs and a Mage Infiltrator, so I think. Those are both agents. It might have moved the Fangs down. So you're able to try and get access to those goals with Joachim.
True, yeah, because Joachim will never pull
the disloyal.
Exactly. And the Deadlaugh comes down, it was infused. Toad consumes it. We don't have a Dame on the board, so we didn't get to see the answer to our pop quiz. But it does pull out Dagon. And so now Dagon's on the board. It can't get instantly locked.
There's also another potential consume that already has a status.
Yeah. That's true. You may not want to lock it. You might want to let it consume. Well, I guess it's probably the same points either way. But
you can. Okay, I think Philippe has enough time to get a kill onto like 1 unit, really, with some kind of combination of statuses.
Depends on what Joachim gets out, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a thirsty Dame.
I mean, there's the
Oh, and then it's the next card is Usurper. So you just put the agent at the bottom. And when you coup, well, okay, you have to consume the Joachim, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, you know the last card is coup.
Yeah, you know that. So maybe you think they mulliganed coup, but you have to expect that they might have kept it official.
And I mean, there's Dagon has spying also. Okay, so leader is used on Deadlaugh, which denies 6 points, but also there were lots of cards on the range row for Gravesh that had statuses. So it gets boosted to 11. So that was a 17-point leader with Imposter. This is how you're supposed to use this leader. Even in a short round, it got a boatload of value.
Yeah. Those drones being on the same row as Deadlaugh just feed in the Imposter Deadlaugh quite a bit.
Yeah, so I guess location should be on melee row next time, since you're going to play Deadlaugh ranged. It's hard to...
Perhaps, yeah.
Okay, here comes coup.
Yeah, but like it's... Yeah, so it consumes under enough pressure that the Joachim is able to stick around. There's quite a point gap.
It was quite a point gap. Now Joe is ahead by 17. That Joachim coup was like 27 something points. Dame is up to 20 in like a 5-card round 3. It's insane. It wasn't even there from the start.
Yeah, and granted, 8 of those boosts did come from the Joachim, but effectively like a 12-point Dame in what, like
2 turns?
A couple of turns. Yeah. So
good thing it's 5 provisions now.
Yeah. Is there anything this AQ can consume? I think there's still 1 toad in graveyard, right?
Yeah.
So you can consume the Deadlaugh.
It's 6 points.
I think the Dame did actually boost there from
It did, yeah, it went to 21.
Yeah. So
Joe with 69 to 65. That was actually very close.
Yeah.
That was incredibly close. I think, what is it? 2 points from the location being on range row, and then I don't know how.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's anything Gravesh could have done better, to be honest, considering the draws he got in round 2. But
I mean, like if his round 2 hand was maybe a bit stronger, perhaps you're able to stay ahead a bit more, or try and get a bit more erudite carry over into the round 3. But yeah, that's quite scary now because Gravesh is in the reverse sweep seat. Needs to get the reverse sweep through again.
Yeah. So now Gravesh is red coin.
What is it?
He's probably gonna queue bounty, right?
Scoia.
His Scoia got banned, right?
He needs to reverse sweep Scoia.
Okay.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, his Scoia was banned. So you have.
He has to beat the Sheer deck 3 times.
Yeah, Renfrey is probably red coin. Once is probably blue coin.
Yeah, he hasn't even played his Nilfgaard deck yet. That's true.
Yeah, you have 2 red coins here.
All right.
Did have to take the blood money on the red coin before, and we see it again on the red coin here.
Yeah. And I mean, this is Conquest format, so for anyone not familiar, it means that once you win with a deck, you can't replay that deck. And the way that it ends up affecting matches oftentimes is, if you're Gravesh and you think your Syndicate list is weaker in this matchup than your NG list, you might just start with your Syndicate list so that you have 2 chances to get it through, right? Depending on draws. So this is his second time playing it on red. Whereas his NG, he might be more confident. And he might end up getting 3-0'd, but that doesn't mean that it was a 3-0 match, because you tend to play your weaker decks up front.
Yeah.
Although, isn't there prizes for every win in this tournament, or is that only in the playoff stage?
I think that's only at the main stage next weekend. I don't think there's any actual prize pool for group stage.
Oh, ouch.
I could be wrong on that. I think that's how it worked at mid-season.
Okay.
And I think it's most likely the same here. A lot of asterisks there. Don't take my word on that.
Kareem's just I guess I'm not playing today. I'm just trolling him in case he's watching.
Not sure what the Fish King put up. Might have been Decree, if that's the same sort of decision, line of decisions as last game. You see, Roche actually came onto board this game. Look at that.
Gravesh is decided not to hold Roach, or did he draw it and mulligan it? Or...
I'm not sure. Roche is doing its job. It's on board this time.
Oh, he's on top of the roof. Nope, he's somewhere else now. He despawned.
Yeah, it's just sort of the vial being played here. So that's sort of a way for Joe to sort of develop from this blue coin a bit more. Or sorry, red coin. Yeah, no, blue coin actually. Yeah, blue coin. A bit more interactively, not given a good sort of unit to poison on. However, once the vial does get clicked, that becomes quite a viable poison target.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine it will go on a chariot that gets played range row. It's like a second TA almost. But also, he's giving a Dwarven Skirmisher is a 1 base power unit. And it's hey, go ahead and put a bounty on me. You get 1 point.
Yeah.
And 1 coin. And also, he already did 6 damage before he can get killed, so it's a very good unit to start out with.
A little bit surprised that we saw the TA being used on the Skirmisher. I think that's more if you're scared of a Tunnel Drill being used to just kill it straight away. If it's boosted, a Tunnel Drill can remove the armor, but then you can sort of re-enable it with a Chariot. Pretty good roll there from the Plunder, rolling a failed experiment. And opts to just hold.
Yeah, he doesn't actually poison the Skirmisher. I guess he wants to save it for whatever vial gets clicked on. But this can get killed.
Yeah, the Rock Barrage from the Dow here does deal 6 damage with combination with the Milva.
Yeah. He opts to just go for a backup plan and actually gets one of the really good options in the situation when you have one unit on the board. Does 3 and 3. But you know, will he leader the Fisher King and finish off the Abomination with Milva? It doesn't look like it.
Yeah. No, decided not to, at least not that turn. Maybe we'll, if the board develops a certain way. But we will see. Okay, here comes Roland with the poison click, able to get ahead by 1 and get a little bit of a refund for when you click the
Instant Dow to do the 6 damage. You can't let the Roland live. But the Roland at least played for 6 body and 2 coins. So he had a...
Yeah. Roland did his job before rolling out.
Is this Teshem bait?
Might be. But might be a bait for a fish which is not there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it really matters if, like, no matter what unit you boost here, the vitality would mean the Teshem finishes it off anyways. So that is quite a lead now for Joe. Like, to contest, you really need to get, I think, a poison onto that Rowdy Dwarf with the vitality.
Yeah. Moral would give him reach, but Moral never lives.
Yeah. I mean...
Well, looking at this hand,
sure how you'd actually... Yeah, Moral isn't super easy to deal with here, but...
Well, if you just move the Moral and finish off any of the ones with Milva, that works. But instead, we see Gravesh just pass. He keeps his ammunition, I guess. And it's with a reactive deck like this Milva deck, bleeding isn't that easy against a control deck.
No.
Right?
And especially since a lot of your points are tied up with the Similis into Dennis Kramer, which also does force a couple of your units to go really, really tall, which plays very badly into poisons and the potential one-turn kill from a Golden Echo. Like, you want to bleed, you probably have to bleed here, but also Similis and Dennis are both in deck, so you decide to just take the Maxi to see what's going on. Might need to take a shuffle there, because out of the Similis, the Dennis, and the Shiru, only one of them is in the top 5 cards.
Yeah, interesting that we didn't see the Mahakam pass play instead, Max, which I guess makes sense. That tells me that Joe wants to pass here, right?
Yeah, or at least you, depending on like how Gravesh plays into this, you're happy to pass.
Yeah,
which does come through.
Plus the location can give you a very good dwarf, and it gives it 4 armor, which is really good for Cranmer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was initially playing it on the dry pass, like automatically, and recently I realized that that's not always the right play.
Yeah, and look, the Maxi is basically carryover if it lets you draw an extra gold here, which looks like we did see the shuffle come through. There's the Neomancy going to top, Dennis and the Shiru. There you go, Maxi doing her job. So Similis available from the Neomancy and decides not to use a mulligan on something like the Squirrel. Yeah, Squirrel isn't good here, but it's better than having a Break the Armor's Workshop in your hand. Notably, last say can be quite important, because it means that you can decide which units to actually boost up with the Dennis Kramer after the Armor's Workshop, and not let them get poisoned.
That's true, yeah. Kramer is also really nice in general because it boosts two units instead of just one, right? It kind of splits.
Yeah.
What do you play here as Gravesh? I guess it's just an executioner, yeah. It was either that or a candle.
Yeah.
But candle might just get immediately heat wave.
Yeah, most likely. But
and he didn't want to boost Siri too much.
Gets offering. Yeah. No.
But there's only one offering, right?
Yeah. I mean, the candle wouldn't have over-profit. I guess if you play a candle gets heat wave, then you run the risk of over-profiting.
Yeah, I think the issue is like you want to, when your opponent has Heat Wave, you want to
Oh
get
yeah,
some value from your candle the turn that you play it.
yeah, actually that's fair. Yeah, you'll have limited opportunities to spend. So yeah, use the candle straight away to A, actually have a chance to spend, and B, you can try to use it to misalign the Shiru.
Yeah, and this is interesting because Caleb, he doesn't work on range row, but Joe can't really move this ranged without leaving his Milva exposed. 5 is very awkward number for Milva.
Yes.
So COC is instead used.
Yes.
Deny Caleb a target until something else develops that maybe can help Joe deal with this Caleb. Caleb is a must answer card against Blood Money. Like, it's a threat that you have to deal with. Otherwise, it gets a ton of value.
Yeah. And like you see, like, yeah, as you mentioned, like there are those reasons for being hesitant to play the candle. But if you don't play the candle, then it could be quite easy for Joe to just not let Gravesh have a unit on board to even use the candle on. Like, if Joe is able to keep removing each unit that Gravesh plays, then you're not going to have those targets. You might need to wait a candle after the Golden Necker.
Yeah.
But this immunity will stick around for 1 turn. And does bump the Caleb up to a 7, which is still pretty awkward to deal with. So you heat wave it. But heat wave means candle will stick here. So
yeah,
that's nice.
You can, but right now you have no targets for candle to boost. Although it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, it's not a great time to play it right now.
What else do you play?
Just,
this is why forcing a control deck to have first say when you have cards in your deck that can be uninteractive is so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. And depending on what happens here, okay. Ooh, Pyrotechnician can be kind of scary here. For random damage can line up a kill with the Milva or the Saboteur potentially. Also, can I just point out, look at this great Ignatius still at 1 power.
Oh my god, yeah. Nothing has gotten bountied. I guess we'll see Salamandra come down now.
Yeah, there'll be a bounty from the Salamandra Assassin. Maybe Golden Neck can get a bounty in some way, but
or do you even want to? Would you rather just bleed this Pyrotech? It's got 6 armor.
Yeah, like that'll be hard to punch through.
Yeah. Mahaka Pass with the armor is
there's a lot of synergies.
Yeah, it really always gives your opponent a conundrum.
There is bleeding. Just to not overprofit with the candle. Nice thing is that bleeding will sort of pierce through the armor. And with no more toll punish, you can sort of go as toll as you like. Pyrotechnician hits the Execution. I have a feeling you would have preferred to hit the Gellert there, set up at 1, get a nice kill with the Milva, but was not to be. Instead, you just see the Chariot being played, sets up some Dwarf bodies on the front row to provide targets for the Simulus Workshop combo. It also gets a bit of a potential engine going on to set up armor for the extra armor for the Dennis Kramer. So when do you pull the trigger on the Golden Necker, I wonder? Do you just wait?
You want to have at least a good bounty target. There's nothing on this board that you want a bounty. But I guess it's now, because everything else was also awkward. Here comes Freak Show. Tesham, which will get 5 points. And Location.
I mean...
Not even a... Like... This isn't even going to grow the Ignatius. This is so sad.
Nope.
But this was always going to be a very tough match for Blood Money. Like, the last thing you want to face as a Syndicate control deck is the control deck, because Syndicate control usually requires having, control engines on the board, whereas scoia'tael is all on deploy, right?
Yeah. And
It does get a board
the
wipe.
nice thing is, look, maybe you're able to just deny a lot of the... Oh, that was some poor placement.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that was terrible placement, Saboteur.
Well, Gravesh was roping, right?
Yeah, which I guess that's why, but that still hurts so much. But yeah, I was going to say, maybe a line you can take is if you can sort of just try to remove all the units from Joe's side of the board here, which you have an Executioner. This Executioner isn't great. You have this Preacher, which is a damage spender. You have a potential to get a few coins, bit of poisons.
Joe just needs a second unit before playing Simless. But
yeah,
that's not easy. He's only got one. The squirrel needs to stick before he can Simless. And it's not going to happen unless he takes care of this Freak Show and Executioner. But how do you take care of a 5 with the hand that Joe has? I'm actually...
You could do some...
Getting worried for Joe,
You could do, like, a couple of leaders and a Shiro at 3 here could be the play. I don't think it's great, but if you want to deal with the morale...
I mean... Yeah.
Pretty sure.
If you could get your Shiro to 4, sure, but you can't.
Yeah. That's why you need, like, use... I think even if you use all your leaders, you only really get to kill 2 of those units. Milford is actually a body as well. But it is a bit down to RNG what Roche
is going to go melee or range. I guess you could move it. But, I mean, this Saboteur's dying, so this Simless is actually going to be kind of sad. Wow. This game really switched.
There's still a few more units coming down. But yeah, like you saw, this deck does rely on their control engine sticking, but that's why Golden Necker is so important, trying to sort of play them and combo them with other things all in one turn.
Yeah.
And it's just trying to overcome with a lot of the big threats they play.
But Joe's deck also needs two things to be on the board. And,
yes,
that's one of the things the Precision Strike version of this idea is a little bit more reliable because it's not vulnerable to get, because it has more bodies. But
yeah, but it has a bit less sort of control overall with no Milva, no Shiro. But the Shiro's not looking hot.
No. Well, I mean he can kill the 11. That's what I would do right now.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Is just drop it, give it tempering.
And that's it.
Sure, it's a good target, but
poison.
Oh my god. Yeah, this is going to be the saddest Simless in history. He'll have one target.
I mean, okay, look. There's still one more poison to go through. I think it should be able to get 2 units to stick at the very least here.
How?
Well, between the Milva and the Simless, that's at least 2 units.
Right, okay.
There's not many points here actually coming onto Gravesh's side of the board. Actually, movement onto the morale there does deny the poison. So the Simless will...
But does he move the Freak Show or does he move the Milva? Oh, wow. Gravesh concedes.
Gravesh. Yeah, I mean, his hand has 5 more points in it. That's terrible.
That's true, yeah. I guess he
so
was... Yeah.
You don't need a good Simless to just get ahead there. And I mean, Gravesh was almost dead on board at that point, honestly.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right. I didn't realize how it's sad that Ignatius was... A 1-point Ignatius in round 3. Oh my god.
Sure, you're able to deal with the opponent's board, but those last 2 cards were just not it, sadly. And that does mean that Gravesh loses the series 0-3. Congratulations to Joe for moving on to the winners match for Group C. You'll be able to see him playing tomorrow. I think in the first time slot tomorrow. But yeah, commiserations to Gravesh, who has not out yet, but does have a significantly harder path to make it to the main stage of the tournament.